Leaders Having Lunch with me, your host, Jeff Conroy. This show is dedicated to talking to leaders about what makes leaders so great. And today we have Post Falls, Idaho Mayor Ron Jacobson and Senior Vice President of Bank Coeur d'Alene, a longtime leader in our community. And welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to be here.
Just want to start off by, where did you learn your leadership style and what brought you to this point?
Interesting question. I can't really point to any one leader that I have learned a style from. My attitude has always been, I never expect anyone to do more than I'm willing to do. And as a result, I just hold them to the same level I would hold myself. I've probably learned more about leadership from people who I consider to be poor leaders than those who have been good leaders.
Awesome. So you've been in this community for how long?
63 and a half years.
Ish.
Yeah.
And you've had a lot of leadership experience. And like I said, now you're the mayor of Post Falls, Idaho, and senior VP for Bank CDA. Where did you learn your leadership?
Again, I think it's just from experience that I've garnered through 41 years of banking now. 41 years of banking, I've been involved in different capacities with the city of Coeur d'Alene the city of Post Falls. Freudian slip. City of Post Falls for 27 years. And I've been the mayor out here. This is my 6th year as mayor, so leadership in that capacity in the city. And then in banking, I've had many different leadership roles. And it's just the experiences that I've garnered through all those years and how to treat people. My philosophy here at the city of Post Falls is to hire the good people, empower them to do their job, hold them accountable, and stay out of their way. I'm not smart enough to run a police department. I'm not smart enough or experienced enough to run the finance department of the city. I can't run the streets department. You hire good people and you hire a good administrator, which we have done, and you let them do their job. And as a result, to date, I have not been disappointed. We have wonderful staff. The city has great respect for those who deal with the city. And I think it goes back not only to my leadership, but to the leadership that our department heads and our city administrators use in dealing with our employees.
Isn't working with great leaders a lot of fun?
Oh, it makes life so much easier. People ask me all the time, what's the toughest part about being the mayor? Or what is the most challenging thing? And I really have to sit back and think about that.
Yeah.
Because anytime I get a question raised by a citizen or someone that just wants to complain, we get the right people involved. And that's not my leadership, that's their leadership. And I go to our city administrator, who goes to the appropriate department head, and we get a result. And as a result, I think we are very highly thought of as a good city to do business with.
What's your best leadership moment?
Boy, that's a good one. And I don't know if that would be in banking or I don't know if that would be in the city. Probably in banking. When I took over for a former employer, I went to work for a former employer. We expanded into the North Idaho market with basically no loan portfolio at all. And after 5 or 6 years, we had grown that to anywhere between $75 and $100 million in loans. And some of them were across the border in Washington, but it was good as a team leader to be able to hire the right people that took care of our customers the way I wanted them taken care of and that I would take care of them, to get them to buy into my vision, my philosophy, and be successful in generating that amount of business. Now, not everybody's going to operate the same as I do on the banking side, and that's fine. I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong, but you have to share the common vision of taking care of the customers and good customer service. And so for me to be part of a small team, but to generate that kind of business and to be the top performing part of the bank was wonderful.
Sure. Okay. So you and I both know that leadership has changed, just in the 30 years that I've been doing it. And you've been doing it a couple of years longer than I have, respectfully. What do you think are the biggest leadership challenges that have occurred over your tenure?
I remember back when I was first starting in banking, 1978, and I'll never forget receiving a call from a branch manager of one of the branches saying, "I need your help." And so I went down to his branch, and we went to lunch, and the help he needed was he just wanted to go out and have lunch and have a drink or two. Back then, that was okay.
Right.
as we have progressed since then, and I do think it's progression, you don't do that at lunch anymore. I would never think of going out, taking somebody for lunch and having an alcoholic beverages.
Right.
Um,
We joke about it.
we joke about it, but back then it truly was the way you did it. You would go to lunch and cocktails were the norm.
Right.
So I think that's a big change, and I think that's a change for the better. I think women coming into the workforce more or having a higher presence in the workforce, I think that has been very good.
Yeah.
That is a leadership change. I mean, the comments made, the old TV series Mad Men was very appropriate
Yeah.
and a good representation of the way women were treated, which was wrong.
Yeah.
So to see those two changes, the way you have to conduct yourself, I think have been big changes. But the other one, and young people may not like me for this, but the millennials,
Yeah. there
there are a lot of people, and they don't have to be the young people, but who feel that they are entitled and they have a right. And, they're entitled to perform. And they have a right to perform.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be treated as well as someone who's successful.
Right.
You have to earn your stripes.
Okay.
And I think as younger people have come into the workforce and changes, technology, et cetera, you
Yeah.
get a lot of changes in the business industry that technology has made. And I think as a result, you get a lot of folks that don't know how to deal with people.
I agree.
And it's a challenge to make sure that we realize we are dealing with people still, at least in my capacity.
Yeah.
And you have to respect them and treat them well. So there's just been a myriad of different changes that have taken place. Technology, the age, the people we're dealing with, women in the workforce. And I think we just have to conduct ourselves on a level that years ago probably wasn't expected or seen.
Right. No, I agree. And we both have worked for leaders that we don't agree with. We both have worked with bad leaders. Heck, I had a leader, and you'll appreciate this. When I worked for the Boy Scouts, we had a leader, when he wanted you, he had a bell, and he would ring the bell. And that worked for about 2 times on me. And I'm like, don't ring the bell on me. But you work with leaders that you'll say, I'm never going to do that again. And I'm sure you've had those same type of experiences.
My wife and I were talking about that this morning. I had a leader, I guess, let's just say a boss, they used to walk around the building with the little dictaphone, the little pocket dictaphones when they first came out. He thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And he would walk around the building, outside and inside, making comments on his dictaphone, have his secretary type it up, and they'd give it to me because I was controller for the bank and took care of the facilities. He would give me then the transcribed memo with important things, have this garden weeded, have someone come and clean these lights, have someone come and fix the toilet, things of that nature. And terrible leader. He just enjoyed the power of being able to talk into a little machine and having it transcribed and give it to somebody.
Yep.
I worked for a leader, Little Savings and Loan in Central Washington. And my first day on the job as chief financial officer, my 2 right-hand people asked me if I had heard about the potential $750,000 problem. Well, this was a small institution. It was only $50 million. So $750,000 problem was a big problem.
Yeah.
We ended up calling in the state regulators. The auditors had missed it and ignored it. He was cooking the books.
Oh.
So that was a leader I learned a lot from. Number one, you don't falsify financial records. And there's a whole series of things he had done. But I actually worked with the FBI putting together the case for the assistant prosecuting attorney. And I testified before the grand jury on his indictment.
Oh, wow.
So I learned a lot of what not to do from him as well.
Yeah.
I had a gentleman I worked with in Spokane at another bank that was the most laid-back guy that gave me the best advice in the world. He said, it's going to take you time to build a following, but if you take care of your customers, if your word is good, you respect them, he said, you will have as much business as you want.
Yeah.
And he did, and I did.
Yeah.
So, I've learned a lot from both good and bad leaders.
Sure. Well, and the good ones, I like to call mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And the good ones I still try to keep in touch with as well. Have you had some pretty positive mentors in your life?
I would say one, and that was the gentleman I just spoke about. But he was the most honest, caring person I've ever dealt with. And he was just tremendous. He helped me. I came from the accounting side of banking to the production side of banking. So I was in charge of the financial reports for banks. Then moved into the loan side where you have to produce to earn your keep, so to speak. And I was brand new at it. And he started out with me and again, gave me the advice. He fed me a few leads and said, take care of them and it will take care of you. But he was just the most honest guy I've ever dealt with.
Awesome. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So leaders are always trying to grow and always want to be better. Do you listen to any podcasts, read any good leadership books?
You know, I don't. And I'm probably one of the few that don't do that if they're looking to improve their leadership skills. And I have read a few. Who Moved My Cheese, How to Deal with Change.
Sure.
You know, I've started out on some of Covey's books, and I just have not been able to get excited about them. One book I did read, though, was by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at what this man went through and the way he handled it, it just gives you a whole new outlook on what we are doing and how good we have it. So I just try to follow some of the philosophies that he had in how you react. You know, you can't change how everything's going to occur. You can change your attitude.
Right.
You know, things of that nature. When I look at, again, what he went through and how he endured, how he treated other people who were as bad or worse off than he was, and it comes back to me that, you know, we just need to work on our own ability to accept things as they occur. Number one, we need to be willing to step out of our comfort zone to help others and respect others. And I think that just makes for a better workplace and a better world. I had an email recently from someone in the city complaining about a homeless person. And that person who was complaining made what I consider a leap, saying, this person is homeless, so they're a drug addict, they're leaving dirty needles and garbage, et cetera, et cetera. And I called the person on it, and they didn't agree with me. I referred that over to our police department, because if there was any enforcement issues, it would be up to them. They contacted the person who was upset that the police department contacted them, because it was intimidating. So what I've learned is, you listen to people, you treat them with respect, you try to address their questions and or needs, but you're not always going to get the response or the answer that you would have hoped.
Sure.
And that's just all learning. Those are all learning experiences, and you just, I take that, I would not have dealt with that any differently, and when I get inquiries, complaints, et cetera, from people, I'm going to treat them all with respect, and even if I disagree with them.
Sure.
Oftentimes people just want to be heard. I feel it's that way too with people that work for you. They may not like something that's going on or the way things are being done. Listen to them.
Exactly.
And that usually appeases them.
They want to be heard.
They want to be heard.
They want to be heard. I'd be remiss not to ask you if you've got a favorite leadership quote.
No, I really don't, but I was looking again at Viktor Frankl, and a couple of his that really have made an impression on me. And one of his was that our greatest freedom is the freedom to choose our attitude. How many people do we deal with or do we see that are just grumpy and unhappy all the time?
Yep.
And if that's the attitude you bring, that's the experience you're going to get.
Exactly.
So it's all about attitude. And you know, from the city's perspective, people say, "Why would you do this? Why would you want to be the leader of a city when all you receive is criticism?" And I say, you don't only receive criticism. You hear from people that are happy as well.
Right.
But again, it's all part of it. You know, it's important for me, though, from a leadership perspective, to give credit where credit's due. And I guess I'm involved in politics, although I don't like to consider it that. But what I don't like is when I hear politicians who say, "I did this, I did that, I," because it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And so from the city's perspective, when people call me, reach out to me with issues, concerns, we get them resolved, and they want to thank me. I always will tell them, "Well, I appreciate your contact. However, it wasn't me, it was," and let them know who did it.
Right.
And, you know, so that's the big thing. And again, it goes back to the attitude on that quote.
Right. Well, I've known you for a long time, and I've always kind of considered you that servant leadership. And servant leadership's definition is leading people who don't know they're being led. And you have totally exhibited that. I want to thank you for being here today and being here on Leaders Having Lunch. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Post Falls Chamber of Commerce for allowing us to use their room to record in today. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being here. And I'll thank everybody for listening. And remember, leadership begins with a relationship.